During a briefing today, Donald Trump made clear that he intends to cancel the Jacksonville, Florida portion of the Republican National Convention. He explains in a little more detail in the next video. Let's take a look.
And people elected me to help and to protect. So I told my team it's time to cancel the Jacksonville, Florida component of the GOP convention. Will be starting in North Carolina for the Monday, as has always been planned. We were never taking that off. That's remaining as it is. The delegates are going to get together. That's where they do their nomination. So the delegates are going to North Carolina, and they'll be doing the nomination. And we're going to do some other things with tele-rallies and online the week that we're discussing, which will be really good. I think we're going to do it well. And I'll still do a convention speech in a different form, but we won't do a big, crowded convention per se. It's just not the right time for that. I care deeply about the people of Florida and everywhere else, frankly, in this country and even in the world, who would be coming into the state, and I don't want to do anything to upset it. They'll be doing very well very shortly. We're going to put some maps up of the country behind me, and you'll see that the area that we're talking about is a hot spot.
So one thing that will happen in North Carolina is that delegates will still gather in North Carolina and formally nominate Donald Trump for re-election. Before he made that statement, he made sure to preface it by arguing that there is great demand to still hold this in-person convention in Jacksonville, Florida, but that he needs to do the right thing and do what needs to be done in order to prevent the spread of coronavirus, especially in a hot spot like Jacksonville, Florida. But the reality is, Cenk, that there was actually polling showing that the people living in Jacksonville, Florida were not in favor of holding this convention. They either disagreed with it or strongly disagreed with it. One of the surveys was done by the University of North Florida, and it found that 58% of Jacksonville residents did not agree with holding the convention. And the Duval County Sheriff, his name's Mike Williams, he also recently spoke out and said he had significant concerns about holding the convention in Jacksonville, Florida in the middle of this pandemic. So there actually wasn't great demand, but of course he needs to tell himself and the rest of the country all these little lies to make it seem like he's doing the heroic thing by canceling the Jacksonville, Florida portion of the convention.
So is Herman Cain still alive? Because he got coronavirus at Trump's Tulsa rally, as did apparently a number of people, and COVID cases did spike after that rally in Oklahoma. So should the good people of Jacksonville be concerned about a super spreader event? Of course. So Florida now has record number of cases. It's one of the worst hit states. So they'd be nuts not to be concerned. And you shouldn't underestimate these large gatherings. They are apparently the single most, single best indicator of spreading the disease. And so I guess that's not overall that surprising. I think that when I read the study on it, I was surprised by the magnitude of the impact that these big crowd gatherings had, because it spreads like wildfire, and then they all go home. They don't have enough time to do contact tracing because there's now a backlog on tests. You get the results, 7 to 10 days later. By that time, everybody's already spread it everywhere. So of course they should do this. But I will say, to be fair, I just looked it up, and to refresh my recollection, it appears that the Democrats have not yet canceled their version of this. So they told the state delegates to stay home. So that's part of the precautions that Democrats are taking. They limited the number of media that is allowed. Obviously, of course, they immediately said progressive media is banned. They didn't improve our credentials. Of course, we're one of the largest news networks in the country, but God forbid that they should work with us anyway. But back to the point, and more importantly, as far as I can tell, based on the latest reporting, Joe Biden is still planning to give a speech in Milwaukee. So Trump does jump ahead of him on that. So nicely done on that, and the Democrats are still not sure. So if you're going to be mad at Trump for taking this long to cancel it and say, of course, that they should cancel it in Jacksonville, you should say the same of Democrats.
Right. I mean, look, I'm not mad at Trump simply because he took this long to cancel the convention. I mean, it's everything else that's led to the United States handling this coronavirus pandemic so poorly, especially considering how many resources we have as a country and how we should be leading when it comes to the response to this pandemic. Donald Trump isn't doing this because he cares about the well-being of individuals. That's the reason why he decided to hold the Tulsa rally and other events following that Tulsa rally. And then later, when he realized that people weren't willing to show up and risk their lives, their health to be there, all of a sudden he switched over to these press briefings again, where he's pretending like he's doing it to talk about the severity of coronavirus. But I really think that he wanted to save himself from the embarrassment of holding this controversial rally in Jacksonville, Florida, and then seeing that the crowd is gonna be empty and embarrassing for him. I think that's really what drove his decision here. I don't think it has anything to do with public health or safety.
Yeah, well, it's a combination of things. They are making a turn towards, oh yeah, maybe less people dying might be a good idea. Maybe we wear masks 4 months after the virus started raging throughout the country, 3 months after we became the leading country in coronavirus cases and deaths. So this is a lot of too little, too late. I guess I'm glad they're doing it, but and I agree with you. Probably the number one factor was he's haunted by Tulsa and K-pop fans, and so he's probably thinking, I can't handle my ego, my insecurity cannot handle another half-empty, 2/3 empty stadium.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.